What's up, everybody? Thank you for coming back after all these many hours to yet again listen to us talk the good word of One Piece. And we are coming to you live from Sniper Island. Of course, we got the boys, Jerry and Mike with us. Y'all say hello to the good
Yo,
people.
hello.
How's
I
it
am
going?
Jerry Robo Tengu Smith. When did we get to this point where Sean was introducing us?
I'm I'm just flying off the handle here, man. This is hour 5 of One Piece, and and I got nothing other than I'm trying to mix it up. Jerry, get off my ass.
That works. That's fine.
But I am Sean, bearded Capolitan.
And I'm Jerry Robo Tengu Smith.
Oh, and I'm Mike Delvecchio.
Yeah, returning once again to be trapped with us for another 2 hours at least, because we're going to see we're getting in there, people. We're getting to. I can't say the good stuff because it's all been good stuff, but we're really hitting that delicious part. Like we're
Right.
where we left off with tragedy. We're going to pick it up here.
Oh yes.
So Jerry, you kind of said you wanted to kick this off with talking about certain things. So why don't you get us started with that?
Oh boy, yes. The summary. So essentially, at the very end of our last episode, we had the Straw Hats running for their lives, and Kuma, the pirate warlord, showed up and seemingly obliterated the entire crew. They all vanished into thin air. Well, it's like we actually find out where they are. Most of them, anyway. So essentially, how we're gonna do this is we'll go ahead, even though it didn't happen canonically in time. We're gonna go ahead and run through where everyone went, and then get to Luffy last, since the story kind of follows him.
Right.
Yeah.
So
real quick, because we want to explain, in the last part, Kuma is like hitting them, and they just disappear, and we find out that he has what is called the pawpaw fruit. So he has his hands are like a bear's little rubber pad on his feet, on his hands, and whatever he touches, he can repel.
Yeah.
So basically, what he's doing is he's just basically tapping these people and sending them flying.
Right.
But it happens so fast that they disappear in an instant.
Yeah, and it's absolutely terrifying if you think about it. Like,
to just have a bear paw in your hand that can just launch them. And I don't remember if they even showed them landing, but I guess he had his trajectories down.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think so. I think how it worked is whenever he hit them, they ended up in those bubbles, right? The little paw bubbles, and then
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually really, really, really well done in the anime. I'm more from the manga reader, but the anime did really well. Where when he's hitting them, every time he hits them, there's like a pop.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That was pretty awesome, and it's so weird, right? Because it's another one of those powers. It's like, this doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It's pretty awesome.
Look, you have a man. His name is just Japanese for bear, with bear paws and a Bible. And he can launch you if he wants to. Okay.
Yep.
It's because One Piece.
So we find out that each of our crew has survived, and he has essentially sent them all to these different places. First, we get Chopper, who gets sent to this place called the Torino Kingdom, and we find out that there are these indigenous people that live there that don't really have any type of medicine, and I think it's mostly because the medicine is being all the fruits and stuff like that are being safeguarded by these giant birds that live on the island that the people are constantly fighting with, right? Like feuding with. So we get to this point where Chopper can pretty much communicate with them. He heals one of them, and they essentially all kind of join in unity. the birds end up what is it? Chopper comes across an ancient library where there's all this knowledge about medicine. So it's you start to see this this theme of each of these places that each person was sent to. So Chopper gets on this island. He kind of squashes this beef between these giant birds and these people that live here, and finds out that there's all these ancient medicine secrets here.
Right.
Then we get to Robin, who ends up on this bridge, and it's they're kind of on this island called Tequila Wolf, and you find out that there are slaves on here that are being commanded to build this this bridge across this certain part of the ocean, and her whole thing is she ends up running into the Revolutionary Army.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of she's been all about the secrets of the world and trying to figure out what's going on, just between that. And I mean, she kind of ran into the right people for figuring all that stuff out, because the Revolutionary Army, and I don't think we've really gotten into other than mentioning that Luffy's dad is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, but they're essentially going against the world government and taking them down, and reestablishing their kind of order in it, instead of the tyrant rule of the Celestial Dragons.
Right, because I mean, honestly, we hadn't really had much run-ins with them until Robin spent some time with them. So,
right.
This is kind of where we get a better look at. We knew they existed because it's been brought up, but yeah, this is the first time we really get a good look at them, but not the last.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but do we want to explain kind of why they're going to these islands, or do you want to wait until we tell everybody where they all went and then explain what the purpose of all that was? Because it actually ties into that a tiny bit.
Right.
Let's wait until we get through Luffy's thing, and then we'll circle back and kind of go through that.
Okay.
Then we get to Usopp. And Usopp has the most interesting island, in my opinion. He's on this island. He meets this character named Hercules, who's a superhero stag beetle, which is amazing.
Perfect.
You find out that he's on this island. There is man-eating plants, and just all kinds of scary stuff. And the big thing about this island is whenever you try to leave it, it's this essentially almost like a Venus flytrap, where it closes up and just tries to eat everything. So it gets to this point where where Hercules is oh, you have to eat to get strong, and then then you can make it off of this island. And it's just hilarious and amazing. And I was really what's that?
Oh, it just leads to the best Usopp out
there. Yeah. He get chunky for sure.
Yeah, we get chunky Usopp, and I was living for every minute of it for some reason, just because I loved it. There's a part of me that wishes he would have stayed that way a little bit, but he had to get better. I guess had to get lighter so we could run better.
Right. Then we cut to Sanji, and he's on this island, and it starts off pretty great because he's gets found by this beautiful woman who's bringing him back to life and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they cut to this point where he sees them, and they're really in Okama, which is essentially what they're cross-dressers, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so they get to this point where Sanji's a big ladies man, but he's not having any of this. So they're trying to track him, chase him down, and he's running away from him. So you get this whole thing where it's basically a chase that's going on between him and this all the residents of this island. And then we cut to Frankie, who gets spirited to this country called Baltimore. And you actually, his was really interesting too, because this is another character that we've had mysteries around. He actually finds one of Vegapunk's labs, the big marine scientist that we've only heard whispers of, essentially.
Yeah.
So he gets to this island and helps these denizens of this island because there's a marine presence there as well. And he kind of has like this, I don't know, just hilarious. I love how a lot of them, like, something will happen and they'll be like, this will be known as the so-and-so incident or whatever. Because he like put on some kind of like tiger rug or whatever and then caught on fire and was running down the mountain, and like everybody thought he was like a monster, and they're like, this is going to be known as the so-and-so mountain incident. with some kind of beast. So then they get to Brooke, who is sent to Namakura Island. And wasn't his island was like these like weird like worshiping people or something like that. Like they were, I don't know. They turned
kind of cultish, weren't they?
Yeah. The cultists, that's the word I was looking for. But they get to the point where they're like worshiping him, and they're like it ends up being a big deal with like the Long Arm tribe and everything, and he's like using this moment to compose new music and putting like enemies to sleep and stuff like that. But he kind of gets to this point where he, kind of gets in an agreement with the Long Arm tribe because, I guess they're like big businessmen, which actually I don't know if we mentioned, but Scratchman Apu from Sabati was a Long Arm person, and essentially means like they have two elbows. Like their arms are so big that they have two elbows.
It's really weird.
Yeah. It's such a, like, to be their own thing. He just had to add, like I said, an extra length into their arms. They have two elbows. But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It exists because One Piece.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So he kind of gets into this point, and then we get to Zoro, who is arguably has the coolest adventure like in this whole time. So he gets sent to this place called Kuragaina Island, and the first person he ends up meeting is Perona, which was the first person that we ever saw get spirited away by Kuma. And essentially her whole dream, because, he asked her, if you were to go on a vacation, where would you want to go? And she said, somewhere, dark and creepy and all this stuff. Well, this island essentially is the epitome of, or epitome of dark and creepy and everything. It's just like lots of grave sites all over the place and a big spooky castle. But you soon find out that someone else lives on this island, and it is the warlord pirate Mihawk.
Yeah. Like full circle for Zoro here. Yeah, seriously. So it's really interesting, right? Because, you've got Perona here, which was an enemy that, I don't know, Zoro never had to deal with. But then you also have Mihawk, who, was one of the first big challenges that Zoro ever met, and he actually one-shotted and like beat Zoro. Yeah, he's the only one Zoro's lost to.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
So then we get to Nami, who turns out that she is in Weatheria, which is a sky island, and it's cool because she meets all of these scientists, these Sky Island scientists, who are all about the weather and controlling the weather. And so it's just like, perfect for her. She's just got all these like secrets laid out in front of her, but they're also kind of like that whole thing of like, she wants to learn things, but they're just kind of like, oh, you can't learn our secrets and stuff like that. And I think she runs into one and she actually kind of like kidnaps him for a minute because she's trying to get back to the crew. but then like she kind of realizes like, oh, I could learn even more stuff about, you know, the weather and everything like that about him. So it was kind of neat. So that's like the entire crew there, and you kind of get this sense of like, oh, did they all have a purpose for where they sent? Like, is this you know, it can't just be coincidence, right?
Yeah, like they were definitely
yeah.
sent on purpose. Like Kuma, I guess, just has a vast knowledge of the world. Because
Yeah,
So
because we find out. I forget if it's at this point or not, but he's actually part of the Revolution Army,
yeah,
and that and so he sent them all to a place that he knew that they had to go to prepare for what was coming, kind of thing.
right. To get stronger. There's actually this really great Reddit theory that I read like a million years ago. And it's just one of those things that had been floating around, that the book that he has is filled with Viver cards of different islands and stuff like that.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's how he knows where to send people, and like where certain things are, and how to, you know, be in the right place at the right time, kind of situation.
Right.
So, with those being said, we will cut to Luffy. Luffy ended up on this island called Amazon Lily, and Amazon Lily, much like, you know, the Amazonians of legend, it is essentially a island that is completely, you know, all the inhabitants are women.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Like I like how they sort of laid them out, because, you know, they're Amazons. They use bows and arrows, but their bows are actually snakes, right? So they all have like a companion snake, and the snake like turns its body into a bow whenever they go to shoot it. And I think they all have like a form of hockey, right?
Well, yeah, because Amazon Lily is when hockey like actually officially gets introduced, because they're firing arrows at him, and they're like I forget if they explode. They do something where it's like something's different, and you know, and this is when we start getting the inkling that there's more to this whole entire world that, you know, than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, the big thing is too is the leader of this island is another one of the 7 warlords, and that's what we get introduced to, Boa Hancock.
Right.
Who?
And
go ahead.
I think no, I was just gonna say, pretty sure this is the first introduction of her, which, you know, as the arcs go, we're like, oh, it's a warlord, so, you know, they're gonna have to fight, right?
Right.
Because that's how warlords have been until we,
I
guess, got to Kuma. But we end up finding out, you know, after this long like whole trial of like Luffy fighting her 2 like sisters that are her 2 like leaders or captains or whatever.
Yeah.
And they actually have snake powers, so they can turn into different types of snakes. Which, you know, it's kind of like,
it is the
of
theme.
course, because of course they do on this island, you know. So they end up, he ends up beating them, and the whole reason I think he was fighting them is because there was one girl that helped him, and they were going to sentence her to death, and he was essentially like fighting for her. And then this whole like thing ended up happening. Boa Hancock's got an interesting attitude, by the way.
Yeah.
Like she has one of my favorite shticks throughout the entire series, where she's so high and mighty that she looks down her nose at people so far that she bends back like she's doing limbo.
Right.
All while pointing
it's just like,
at you in judgment.
Yeah.
It's so over the top and so fantastic at the same time.
Right. She even kicks a puppy in the first episode, I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
The first time she pops up, because she's like walking and everybody's like basically worshiping her, and a puppy like walks out like in front of her or something, and she's like, get out of here.
Yeah, which is interesting with Boa Hancock, because again, like with that showing and knowing that she's a warlord, and she is a villain for like the most part of this series, but then like you know, when we get into her tragic backstory. you it's
Yeah,
through
Yeah.
Luffy
yeah.
persevering through through these Amazons, like because they don't want men on there, so it's a society run by women, and Luffy is just all fucking all that shit up. But
Yeah.
I do like how it was through that like the understanding of like because it was her back tattoo, right,
Yeah.
on Boa.
Right, because her backstory and this is one of the things that I love about Oda and how he intersects a lot of the stories. Her backstory doesn't super involve Fisher Tiger, but Fisher Tiger is the fisherman pirate who Arlong was part of his crew, and then
Right.
and also the other warlord Jinbei, who we haven't seen yet. So it's like it's
Right.
just like interesting how like these things kind of intersect, kind of, and then we find out later on more about that story.
Right.
Yeah, just all connected, and we come to find out, much like the fishmen who like the celestial dragons will imprison and keep as slaves, that a lot of the Amazonians, actually Boa and her two sisters, were imprisoned by the celestial dragons, and later on freed, and then had their, and that's why they keep like men out of their island, right? Is because of that like weird sense of control that they try to impose on everyone. And it's kind of cool how their island works out, because they have, their island is surrounded by the giant like sea monsters and everything, so it's people can't like just approach it. We end up getting to this point where everyone everyone is essentially just completely head over heels in love with Bo Hancock. She has an ability that basically enslaves people, right?
Yeah.
She does like this little heart symbol with her hands, and she like shoots out little heart beams or shoots people.
Yeah, because if you have because she's a ridiculously attractive woman, and if you have any kind of like in love with her or any kind of like you just catch yourself having some feelings, she can petrify them.
Right.
Yeah, she's basically One Piece Medusa.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we find out that Luffy's not really affected by any of that, she kind of gets to the point where like she ends up like admiring him to the point where she's like obsessed by him.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
Very much so.
Yeah, and the area around the island, by the way, is called the Calm Belt, and that's where all the monsters pop up.
Right.
Trying to find my place here.
But I do like how they kind of like address that. Like, Luffy, it's not that he's not interested in women. He's just like, he ain't got time for that right now.
Right,
that's kind of the thing. He's just like, her charms don't work on him because right now all he cares about is being the Pirate King and getting back to his crew.
Exactly.
So like,
laser focused.
Yep. So he's like, you know what? I got to get bros before hoes right now. I ain't got time for you yet. I say yet. That's my own personal like. We'll see what happens down the line, but I'm all for a Team Boa. I know some people have other anime fans who like our ships. I think Boa would be a good piece for him.
Yeah, 100%. And she actually mentions, since you brought it up, Mike, that Fisher Tiger was the person that saved her and her sisters.
Right. Yeah. They briefly mentioned it, and that's why they have the big symbol on their back was that they're all slaves, and that's like the celestial dragon symbol, I guess, of like the branding almost and all that. So
right.
And that we find out again like a few arcs down the road when we actually get into that backstory about like what the symbolism of all that is and everything.
Yeah, it's really interesting just how that all like panned out. We kind of mentioned before when I think Rayleigh and Shaky was telling Luffy about the Vivre card, like Ace's Vivre card.
Yeah.
And how, Ace gave it to him and said, wherever you are, you can find me on this. And it was a full ass piece of paper, but it's kind of getting charred now and turning into cinders. And we actually find out soon after, like, while he's on this island, that a newspaper comes in, and we see that the world government has caught Ace, and that he's essentially going to be executed.
Yep.
So
yeah, he's a big wanted man for being part of Whitebeard's crew.
Yep, and that gives us the resolution of the Whitebeard or the Blackbeard Ace fight that we talked about in the was it the first episode, right, or the second episode?
One of them.
I think it was last episode, and that, and because of this is Blackbeard, because he was the one who brought him in. That he gets to become a warlord after this now.
Yeah,
right. And I think he got to become the warlord because Crocodile's spot was open, right?
Yes. Yep.
After Luffy.
Because Crocodile was stripped of his title because of his involvement in Alabasta, like all the corruption going on in there.
Yeah. So essentially, Luffy ends up getting with Boa Hancock and talking her into taking him to the big prison Impel Down, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of these things where I think the world government is, predicting that some, like, Whitebeard's crew is going to intervene because this is one of their, like, top dogs, Ace. So they're trying to get as many people there as possible. So essentially, they send for Boa Hancock because they want all the warlords to be there. So of course they send for her. She finally agrees as part of, like, the plan of helping Luffy get to Impel Down. And it's kind of funny because he hides. I think he hides under her clothes.
Yes, yeah.
And so she gets to this point where they're like they keep trying to poke their nose into her room or whatever, and she, like, ends up, like, turning them away or using her devil fruit power on them or something like that. And they're like, holy shit, she's eating so much food. She's going to eat all of our stocks of food, because, it's actually Luffy that's eating it all. They just keep bringing her, like, these huge, like, things of food.
Yep.
So I can't remember for sure. I don't think, because she was supposed to be going to Marineford, right?
Right. I think she was she accepted to go to Marineford, but then, using her status as a warlord, she was able she under the guise of going to, I guess, visit Ace or whatever. So she used that as an excuse to go and then get Luffy there, like, sneak him in kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So we get to this this point where we see this prison, and honestly, whenever they were first pulling up from it, not from, like, the military presence and everything that was there, but it doesn't look too, like, intricate and wild. But then we realize that the real prison is under the ocean.
Right. It's basically like a Dante's Inferno style thing where, like there's, like, multiple levels going down, and each level that goes down is like a worse, version of the one before. So, like, each level has, like, there's a perpetual snow going in one. There's one where it's, like, all, I think, isn't one, like, all spikes and something like that?
Yeah.
It's getting more and more torturous as it goes down.
yeah. Entering hell.
Right.
The good old So let's see. I think I got them here. Crimson Hell, Beast Hell, Starvation Hell. Holy shit, these are so long. Blazing Hell, and then I think that's after Blazing Hell, Freezing Hell, and then when you get to the very bottom after Freezing Hell, Eternal Hell. It's a very, very Dante's Inferno type of deal. So we're introduced to a lot of characters as Luffy's trying to make his way down here, and this is one of those things that's like, they've only mentioned once, and it's really cool, right? So they're like, only one person has ever escaped from this, and it actually kind of makes one of the movies canon without really making it canon, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was Shiki the Gold Lion, which if you've if you're into One Piece, if you're not into One Piece, I would recommend this movie anyway. Even if you want to watch like a cool movie and just get like a taste of what One Piece is about.
Yeah, Strong World was
Strong World.
Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know me,
One Piece Strong World.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan for. It doesn't make any sense. It's a habit I probably need to stop. I need to try and go back and watch them. I'm not a fan of movies of long running series because while they may have some cool fights, sometimes it's just like they don't affect anything or show anything.
Right.
So
right.
I often avoided them, but I gotta admit, most of the One Piece movies or even the OVAs, the little shorts they've made, have been fantastic.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting thing, right? Because until I think Strong World came out, I don't think Oda worked really closely with like character designs and stuff like that.
Not at all.
Yeah, direction. And Strong World was actually his first one that he really was involved in. So it's pretty cool that that one was, and you could actually really see it and feel it with just the styles of character and the clothing and stuff that was in the movie. Like it was really well done. But getting back into Impel Down, the place that only one man alive has ever broken out of, we end up seeing Ace through Boa Hancock's eyes, and then as we meet him, we also meet another, or as we see him, we also meet the other warlord that Mike mentioned earlier, Jimbei. Don't they call him like Jimbei, the son of the sea?
Yes, he's basically he is a whale shark fishman, and he is he was the second warlord we ever heard about back in Barate time, but never saw until now, and he's basically like a giant kung fu master fishman.
Right.
Fishman karate, sir.
Oh, sorry, yes, that's right.
Fishman karate.
So I can't actually remember why Jimbei is there though. Do you guys recall that? Because like I am like drawing a blank on.
Honestly, I don't. Like I know like certain warlords like were butting heads, and maybe it might have been some manipulation. But I mean, we got a lot to cover. He's in there.
Oh yeah, he's there.
He's there for reasons. I don't think he ever really did much as a warlord. Cause I think he would still kind of go against the world government for the fish.
Yeah, I think we find out when we finally get to Fishman Island in the future that he only joined to kind of save the island kind of thing, and basically grant them immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going through this prison, and one of the first pirates that is imprisoned here that we run into, one of Sean's favorites and a fan favorite in general, we run into Captain Buggy.
It is the return of the Clown Prince. Yes, Buggy returns, and this is actually what made me fall in love with Buggy. Was this arc, his reluctant teaming up with Luffy. He gets drawn into the plot, and just how he helps and how like his interactions with him, as well as the other people that we're going to get into that that get involved with what Luffy is scheming. To me, is just amazing.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about the series is reoccurring characters, and we get a lot of those. Another one that we get introduced to is Mr. 3, the Wax Man that was on Crocodile's crew.
Oh yeah,
and he's like here beat up, still got his hair in a 3. So that's all good. We also get introduced to the what is he called? The Magellan, the main person,
the warden,
the warden of the prison.
The warden. Yeah, I loved his character, and I loved his devil fruit.
Yeah, he was really cool. We also get introduced to the jail head or whatever, or the vice chief of Impel Down, Hannibal, which is an interesting dynamic between him and Magellan, because he's always wanting to take over as the the warden or whatever.
Right.
So he's like kind of has some hesitations with going and helping him because he's like, oh, maybe they'll beat him or whatever.
You got that
so
that underling that wants to come up, but he knows he's not strong enough to like take down Magellan.
So Magellan has a poison devil fruit power, but it also causes him to have like real bad stomach issues. So I think they carry around a toilet every now and then for him. So it kind of like puts him out of commission.
He's basically out of commission, except for like 1 hour a day. I think the joke was.
And then so the rest of the time it's supposed to be handled by Hannibal, and he's just like, so both of them are kind of interesting characters, and I can't remember if we've seen any of their race before. And I think they're been referred to as like snake tongue or something like that, but they're almost like demon-esque looking.
Yeah.
And they have like horns and like different colored like bodies and stuff like that, like not really like like demon looking. It's pretty interesting, and it kind of brings in this other race that they have unofficially like brought into the series, which was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And of course,
like
their demon-esque appearance adds to the whole Dante Inferno feel.
Right. So it's kind of funny because whenever we run into Buggy's like, all right, I'm busting out of here. And Luffy's like, no, we have to go to the bottom. And Buggy's just like, why would I ever want to do that? So he like, I guess reluctantly joins Luffy at this point, right? Yeah. And Luffy and Buggy kind of become...
No, he didn't. He talked about it in the first time. I was trying to remember. I thought like maybe he expanded maybe upon him and Shanks' history, but I think he pretty much explained that the first encounter when he saw the straw head. But like, which again, he just again hates Luffy so damn much, but he knows like the man got here with a plan, so like he's a good chance to get out.
Yeah, and some of Buggy's other motivation that I just like scrolled past. When I think it was from Skypiea, they were going through a bunch of treasures and stuff, and Luffy actually found this interesting armband, and he's been wearing it ever since. Buggy sees it, and all of a sudden, like something clicks in Buggy's head, so he agrees to help him as long as Luffy gives him that armband, right?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was just basically him escorting Luffy to level 4, and Buggy essentially gets him through that, and I think that was like the spiky one.
Yeah, because level 5 is the ice one, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really interesting because it was like blades of grass that were dyed red with people's blood because it was like just really weird. And that's whenever we get into that weird thing of like, as long as like Buggy's feet are under him or whatever, he can float or something. I don't.
Well, he can float all his body parts, but his feet can't leave the ground.
Gotcha. So his feet had to like make it through that while him and Luffy floated above. Right. So then they get to he falls down a hole, and he gets to level 2 where he runs into Mr. 3, who's in Beast Hill, which has all of the weird like almost Manticore. Actually, I think they called Manticores. I feel like they were called Manticores.
I think you're right.
They were like awakened Zoan fruit things.
Right.
Like it was like a bull and a cow, and but they were like a step above just a plain thing. So then they looked really weird.
Yeah. I think Basculus in level 2. But anyway, Luffy making short work out of some of them. So I think at that point, the Marines come to grab Ace, and Magellan goes to fight Luffy. Luffy ends up getting like mega poisoned, right?
Oh yeah, super effective. He uses poison, super effective.
Yeah. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, because Magellan's fruit isn't. You would think the way that they show it, he like, covers himself in poison. He like has the dragon head and all that, and it looks like it would be a Logia fruit, but it's actually a paramecium. So it's like he's just covering his body in poison.
Yeah.
So whenever Luffy hits him, he's touching poison.
Right. They actually end up getting to freezing hell before that happens. Now that I think about it, Luffy, Buggy, and Mr. 3 make it into freezing hell, and they actually find a cell containing one prisoner who someone that we haven't seen or heard from in a while, and it ends up being Bon Clay, which is like this was, for me, this was like the big return, right? Because he was such an interesting character. And they end up. That's whenever the Marines are going to move Ace and everything.
Bon Clay's return was this again, he's just one of those characters I think a lot of people like were super excited to see return, even though he was a bad guy. They fought him. He's kind of that lovable bad guy like Buggy, which I think that made a lot of people at the time happy. I was happy to see Bon Clay again. Oh,
for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome. And using Mr. 3's wax power, they went ahead and freed him. And anybody that had devil fruit powers, they put sea stone handcuffs on. I think forgot to mention that, and that's where like Mr. 3 comes in, because he can just make a key for it.
Yeah, which again, the return of like a callback from however long ago, we dealt with Mr. 3 all the way back in lead up to Alabasta, and the return of that, and Oda just having all these still being able to bring them in and make them useful, even though everyone's well powered up past them. To me, the creativity of the writing.
I completely forgot when Bon Clay first shows up, he actually has himself disguised as Zoro. So everybody's like, "What the fuck is Zoro doing here?"
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then he transforms into Bon Clay, and then Luffy's like, "Oh, awesome, yeah." A little disappointment, but then still, excited to see Bon Clay. They get separated. Oh yeah, because Buggy and Mr. 3 essentially get split from the group, because they're basically plotting schemers, and they're trying to get out of the prison. And Bon Clay decides to help Luffy. And that's when
I do love also, you want to talk about another dynamic team, is Mr. 3 and Buggy, because
I know, right?
3 knows Buggy's limitations, but he can't help it. This dude's got wow. This man's lucky, more or less, and I like that he ends up sticking with Buggy even after all this.
Right, and you also we also get mentions. We find out that Bon Clay is trying to meet someone who's in the prison that's a legend, and it's the queen of the Kamabaka Kingdom and the idol of the Okama, and that's Emperor Ivankov.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Who was essentially a giant-faced version of Tim Curry's character in Rocky Horror Picture Show, but in One Piece.
Who loves the yell
so
out
great.
Yeehaw.
Right.
He's fantastic. I love some Ivankov.
And this is the guy who I'm almost positive is based on a person that Oda actually knows and put him in here, as a tribute.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that.
Yeah, but I believe the original voice actor was the inspiration for this, and he basically made the character so that when it became an anime, that he would be able to do the voice.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome.
Oh, so we get to this point where Bon Clay and Luffy fall into blazing hell. We get a little side of these prisoners being marched, just down these really long bridges, and there's lava everywhere, and it's super hot. And a prisoner tries to escape, but runs right into somebody and they headbutt him, and like he goes flying into the lava. And we find out that it's none other than Daz Bones, Mr. Number One. So we're essentially getting reintroduced to all of Crocodile's crew, which, you know, spoiler for later.
Right, the return of Baroque works for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Spoiler for level 6.
Yeah. So Hannibal, Magellan gathered up his guards to intercept Luffy's group. We also get introduced to another jailer there named Sadie, who's, you know, essentially like it's short for sadistic because, you know, she loves pain and torture and all that stuff.
Because of course she does.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know, hey, everyone's got one of them at work, right? I mean, definitely in a prison like this. So yeah, not too surprising.
Yeah, we finally get to a point where you know, Luffy is fighting Magellan, right? And it's one of these things of like, you know, his entire body is made out of poison. So the more you like hit him and touch him, which is Luffy's like MO, is you get poison more and more, and it's like essentially just hurting Luffy each time he hits him, and so eventually they're just like, he's just completely just messed up. Luffy gets also hit by a chloroball, like a poison bubble from Magellan that explodes and like just hurts Luffy and just it's a real mess. Like it's not, this prison escape is not going well.
Right.
And essentially they end up Luffy and Bon Clay end up getting away. Sorry, I'm just kind of like looking through here. Oh yeah, that's when Bon Clay also disguises himself as Hannibal and like tricks the guards into going somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. So essentially what it ends up as, Magellan is like, okay, this is over. I'm going to go like squash these other like people that are you know, raising a huge fuss. So he basically leaves Luffy in this like puddle of just straight up poison. And Bon Clay is carrying him through freezing hell. There's like wolves attacking and all of this stuff. And they end up, I think, just kind of succumbing to all their injuries. And like, that's whenever we get introduced to the Okama Queen, Ivankov. They basically get saved, and we find out that there is a secret level that nobody else has found, and he's basically saved all these other pirates that were stuck here, and they created their own kingdom.
Yeah, just living their best lives in the prison they're stuck in.
You're right. Yeah. So it's kind of like this really interesting bit, you know. We end up, you know, with this place called New Kamaland, and all these people are dressed up. They kind of have this this like drag show going on, so it's like this big, you know, spectacle, and everybody's like cheering and everything. We get introduced to Ivankov, which, as Mike said earlier, he's like this like superimposed version of Tim Curry's character, Dr. Frankenfurter. And he's like, you know, dressed in the what do you even call that outfit?
It's like it's like an open chest onesie with fishnets and high heels. Which is the standard uniform for the Okama land. They love their fishnets and heels. They all look fabulous, and they're living their best. Like I was saying, they live their best life. And like, this is something I like. You know, now of course, I know I'm not being a hetero male. I may not be the one to be, you know, complimenting them on how they handled this, but like for a shonen anime, to really
Mm-hmm.
tackle
Mm-hmm.
gender identity and sexuality and stuff like that within this group, and shown it in to me, a fairly positive light. I thought was really cool.
Oh yeah,
Because
Yeah.
definitely.
you show how happy they are just being them, and when we get into Ivankov's power, the hormone fruit, that he can change genders and stuff for people to live how they feel. I mean, that's like talk about fluidity before I even knew what the fuck gender fluid is. And like again, I was just like, Odin's the fucking best. You know what I mean? And like I said, the way I looked at how he handled this and created this group, I loved it.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was awesome. And it's kind of like an interesting thing that we'll also bring up again later, towards the end of all of this, is just more on their character and everything. And he's just really interesting because with that hormone thing, he could do a lot of different things to people. And I think one of the things that pops up is a guard comes in and he actually changes the guard into a woman.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we even
I was
gonna say, and we
Go
even
ahead.
see Ivankov throughout the rest of this adventure. He uses it to change his body form for different situations. It's just so fucking cool of an idea. Because he's Ivankov is strong as hell. He
Oh,
may
very
be,
much so.
yeah, he may be like silly by appearance, you know what I mean, or and yelling yeehaw and just his kind of his flamboyant character, but he ain't to be fucked with. He's down this bottom levels for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember when it comes up, but he has connections to to the Revolutionary Army.
Yeah.
He's a big name when it comes to that whole group.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. So we get this whole struggle where Luffy is basically on his deathbed, and Ivankov injects him with so much that he's just like, there's no way he's going to survive. And then, he ends up pulling through this as it is, and they bring him all this food and everything, and he kind of gets his energy back because that's how Luffy do. Apparently, he doesn't need medicine; he just needs a lot of food.
Look, meat solves everything.
But yeah, Luffy kind of gets talking to him, and I guess he mentions his dad or something like that. Somehow they get into talking about the Revolutionary Army and how Ivankov's like a big member of it. And Luffy says something that he's from the East Blue. I think it was his name, Monkey D. Luffy.
I think
and he's like,
all,
oh,
at that point, 'cause he doesn't know Dragon.
But it's kind of cool because Dragon or Ivankov kind of mentions like thinking back to where anytime Dragon was like looking off into the distance and just thinking, he was always facing the east, which is where Luffy was at, the East Blue and everything. So
right.
I thought that was a kind of neat thing that I honestly kind of forgot about. So we get some intel that they're getting ready to move Ace, like they're moving up his departure time, and they show that the Vibra card is still pointing downwards, which means he hasn't been moved yet, but they're planning on doing it soon. And they essentially decided to do this because of everything that was going on in the prison. So they all just essentially get together and decide to go down there. Meanwhile, I think Magellan is trying to quell all this, and I believe at that point we get some other visitors to the prison, and it's Blackbeard and his crew, which is real interesting because we're like, oh, what are these people doing here? And I think they had even gained some additions since the Ace and Blackbeard fight.
Yeah, because he only had like one or two maybe at that fight, and even at this point, he still only has like maybe one person extra. Maybe he has a real small crew. Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time we ever see him, he has Jesus Burgess, the giant wrestler, luchador wrestler.
Yes.
He's got Doc Hugh, I think is his name, the giant guy on a giant horse.
Right.
The sniper, I forget his name, and then I believe the guy who has like the weird guy with the top hat and wings.
Right.
Yeah. Comparatively, he has a very small crew for how like how crazy important he is and how dangerous he is.
Yeah, you know what? And you mentioned Lafayette. He was the guy with the wings.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. I think actually that we actually saw him before we saw Blackbeard, if I'm not mistaken, because he was in Mary Joa's, or maybe it was actually he went to Mary Joa's to tell them that he caught Ace and that he wanted to be the next Warlord of the Sea.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. His sniper was Van Auger.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So he pops up and all of a sudden starts wrecking the prison as well. So Magellan kind of is like, well, I got to take out this one group, but I have this other group that just came in. So he goes to one of the cells and opens it up, and you actually find out that there is a one of the he's not the executioner. He's another one of the prison guards that they had to lock up because he kept killing prisoners. And
Shiryu.
Shiryu of the Rain. And he's got that very
name,
like.
By the way, too. I don't know why I love that nickname.
Yeah. And you know, they give him back his weapon, which is a katana, and you know it's got to be one of those named blades for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they've mentioned it, but most likely, anytime someone of significance has a katana, it's probably right. A legendary.
Yeah, so he lights up a cigar, and Magellan basically tells him, you know, if you go and take care of the fools up top, then I'll you know, they'll figure out some kind of situation where he doesn't have to be in the cell all the time or something like that. So he goes up top. We finally get to a point where Luffy and like the entire Okama Kingdom and whatever other prisoners they picked up with like Bon Clay and everybody, and they're just fucking destroying the Marines.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because
it's fantastic.
Ivankov has this move called Death Wink, where he creates explosions with his winks whenever he. Like so great.
Again, it's just so amazing.
So he ends up doing this thing where he injects his head, and it makes his head grow even larger. So you get this thing where like there's a bridge, you see a bunch of people, and then a giant head just moving across the platform.
I got a picture of that on the video feed over our dialogue, so y'all can see the glory that is Ivankov.
So perfect. So they finally get to the bottom, to Eternal Hell, but when they get there, Ace is gone. Like they've finally moved Ace, and so who we get is Jinbei, the fishman, Jinbei the pirate, who was a warlord, I guess, up until recently, and he ends up, you know, joining up with them. They get locked into this area, and they're trying to figure out how they, you know, are supposed to get out. And you know, another person in another cell is like, "Oh, I could help with that," and it ends up being fucking Crocodile.
That motherfucker Crocodile.
Yeah, it comes full circle of all the people that we have, and like we've got this like powerhouse of people now, right? You've got Crocodile, Ivankov, Jinbei, Luffy, Bon Clay, and I think Daz Bones was actually with them as well.
Yeah. The only ones that are kind of like still in the prison but not with them are Buggy and Mr. 3. Mm-hmm. But they're still somewhere.
Yeah. And like we still get all of their like funny antics in between, and like them trying to sneak out while also using the wax power. So they essentially they start to make their way out. Jinbei finds out that Ace's execution is set for 3:00, and that Whitebeard can make his move at any point, you know, at any ocean, while they're on their way or after they get there or whatever. They just go completely ham on some more guards, and they're just going through this place. Meanwhile, we hit Shiryu, who meets up with Whitebeard's crew, and you could obviously tell that they're not really a match for Shiryu as it is. He's just a badass swordsman, and I think he actually makes a deal with them, or they make a deal with him to.
Yeah, he didn't initially want to go with him. He was just grateful for being freed out the prison, but he got more prisoners to kill. He was going to fight them, I believe, but yeah, I think he pretty much knew if he stayed there, he's going to get executed. So
basically, yeah,
kind of reluctantly join him, but then again, he's going to get a chance to kill more people. That's all he's really obsessed with.
Yeah, and it ends up turning into a thing where Shiryu ends up joining their crew, which is really interesting and kind of just adds to their just insane strength. We get through the rest of the group, essentially just making short work of everything. Buggy and Mr. 3 shoot back to them every now and then, and they're just freaking out because Magellan's out there, and they've got Shiryu and the Blackbeard pirates and everything. Now Magellan.
Sorry, real quick. They didn't.
Go ahead.
They didn't come specifically for Shiryu, but they were. Weren't they looking for that woman?
Well, I think part of the we find out that he became a warlord just so he can get access to Impel Down, so that he could expand his crew, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if he had specifically came. I didn't think it was for Shiryu, but I can't remember the woman's name. But I know they end up getting her as well here in the prison.
Yeah, he basically during all this he comes to release 4 or 5 other level 6 inmates, which level 6 is where that's the worst of the worst go.
Right.
So you basically never hear about them ever again, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, it's just such a great opportunity to introduce characters and just all these scary people, because I think they even had one just absolutely gigantic cell down there. With the worst of the worst. Yeah. So we really only get silhouettes and everything from all of these crew. We eventually Luffy and everybody that he's with ends up meeting back up with Magellan. So he's got this person that just about killed him, essentially. And they met up with Buggy and Mr. 3. So they come up with this great plan for him to fight Magellan, because apparently he can't get past the wax powers of Mr. 3. Mr. 3 will create a wall of wax and stuff like that. So he essentially gets him to make him wax armor. like a wax
and it's amazing
robot.
Yeah, the giant boxing gloves, again, kind of a throwback to that, and the armor.
Yeah,
is great.
And this is kind of building off of that natural enemy that that we saw in Skypiea, where Luffy wasn't Enel's natural enemy, no matter what. Rubber just didn't affect, lightning didn't affect rubber, whereas poison somehow doesn't affect wax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they kind of get to this point where they kind of go at it a bit, and then they still off an entrance and separate themselves from Magellan, and that's when Luffy runs into Blackbeard, and essentially realizes that Blackbeard was the cause of Ace being locked up and getting executed in the first place. So they actually get into it because Luffy gets angry, of course, as he do. Gets into serious mode.
Luffy get angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but it was kind of funny because it wasn't one of those things that Blackbeard did it because it was his brother, because he didn't know at all. And they basically fight, and let's see. Yeah, he essentially knocks him to the wall because he used it all for like his own gain, and just because this whole situation, Luffy proclaims he will not let Ace die, and just essentially is just attacking Blackbeard this whole time. Jinbei stops Luffy and was like, "Hey, listen, we don't have time for this. We have a priority to get Ace." And I'm trying to find out where we are at this point.
I mean, it's just so much goes down in this prison. It's another incredibly important arc. Not only do we see kind of like repercussions from previous arcs, and seeing the return of a lot of villains, who kind of like I said, Bon Clay, which granted if I remember right, like he fought them, but he kind of left on good terms with the Straw Hats.
He was like, they had like they had a understanding, right. that they were, of a similar ilk. They just happened to be on the wrong side of, a confrontation kind of thing.
Right, and Mr. 3 and Buggy teaming up, like Buggy just kind of like he's still acknowledging he hates the Straw Hat. He hates Luffy, but like they still they realize they have to work together. And again, a means to an end. Like in no way is anyone really forming an alliance, save for a couple, which we'll get to. But yeah, like this whole like thing, and then again, like Ivankov's connection to the Revolutionary Army is huge. Jinbei as another deeper connection, which we'll learn about with the Fishman pirates. So like again, like this one is just great, and then the Magellan battle. Again, Luffy taking a loss to get stronger again. Because he had, I believe it's something that kind of plays in a little bit later, maybe. Doesn't he like take so much poison and survive? He kind of becomes immune to weaker ones.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
I would say I think that they had implied that like because he was able to take that and then have the hormones injected in him, that he was able to kind of like somehow be resistant to lesser poisons.
Right, he still couldn't take like say Ivankov, Magellan again, but like I think somebody tries to use like a minor thing, and he's like, nah, that's not even a factor anymore. Because it's again, I love loss or strength through loss in anime, because a lot of times it's really easy to make the shonen protagonists just win all the time and get stronger through a normal battle, but like the comeback, you know what I mean? I've always really loved that about One Piece.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think meanwhile, while all this is going on, there's this whole like all these other pirate ships that are popping up. They're trying to get out of the prison.
Right.
They get to this point where they're like, they get up here and they're like, oh, we need to steal a ship. Like this is looking really bad. So I think it's actually Daz Bones, Crocodile, Buggy, and Jinbei make it to the front door while Luffy and the rest of the people are trying to fend off Magellan. They knock one of the doors off, and Jinbei just has them jump on, and he just like carries them to a boat. Those three that I mentioned earlier,
right?
And they're trying to fight through Magellan. Mr. 3 creates like a wax wall, and Luffy just absolutely just decimates it into Magellan. And we get this great scene with a bunch of whale sharks, and the one like really, I guess, bad thing that happens is so there's a scene where they're trying to close the gates, because if the gates close from the ocean, then they're stuck there, right? But all of a sudden we hear the voice of Magellan saying to keep the gates open, and we find out that Bon Clay had stayed behind to make sure that everyone could escape. And we get like one little like last stand of Bon Clay, and he basically just claims that this is what a man has to do or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And and he's like doing it for his friends. And that the whole time it's kind of funny when Buggy and Mr. 3 were going through, he was unlocking cell doors and everything. So when they finally get to his ship, even though you have these big names like Jinbei, Ivankov, Crocodile, Luffy, who are essentially responsible for everybody escaping, all these pirates are, essentially like convinced that Buggy was the one that saved them all, right?
And that's the genius of Buggy.
Yep.
I love that. Like basically, what this gets to is that like Buggy ends up in charge of pirates who are way stronger than him in combat.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, what do they say in D&D? Charisma's not a dump stat.
Right.
Buggy's got that luck about him and that way of manipulating. Gotta fucking love it.
Right. Yeah. And it's it was just really, really hilarious and kind of setting the ground floor for some other interesting Buggy shenanigans. But we still have an ace to save, so they're all discussing like, having to get there. And it's kind of funny because they mention about his brother and everything. And Luffy kind of lets it slip that he's not really like his flesh and blood brother, that he's actually Gold Roger's son.
Right.
And this just kind of like sends a shock to everyone. That Portgas Diaz is Goldie Rogers' son. And they basically like, were raised together, and that's kind of how it went. Like it was pretty good stuff. And
yeah,
just that they held it.
Huge reveal. Sorry to cut it, but like that's so major. And like, and to get like, because they've always referred to each other as their brothers, so you just kind of assume, but then to find out that not only are they just kind of like, not related but grew up together, but to be Gold Roger, who so far has only really been just a man of legend with no connection to other than inspiration. But now we have that direct lineage now. It was pretty big reveal there.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's such a big target for the Navy, the Marines and everything, is taking out Gold Roger's legacy, which in a way like his legacy is more like about the One Piece and like the dawn of the pirate age and everything. So then they start basically setting the stage for the Marine Ford arc, Marine Ford, the War of Marine Ford, the Summit War.
Yes.
As it'll be known.
Boy.
Yeah. And we just see all of these like Marines gathering, and we get admirals, and I think that's whenever we first meet Akainu, our third admiral that we hadn't seen, because we already saw Aokiji and Kizaru and his whole motif, like because Kizaru wears yellow. We know that his whole ability is he's a Logia that uses light. We know that Aokiji is he wears blue, and he has ice Logia. And then we get Akainu, who's red, but we don't really know what his thing is. But we can make assumptions at that point of what's going on. We also get a lot of the warlords start showing up as well. I think in this whole time there was talk and rumor of Whitebeard going and Kaido trying to stop him, and Shanks kind of intervening to stop him. But we know that there's some kind of movements going on just based off of the intel that the Marines have. We get to this point, where they bring Ace in, and of course Garp. Garp's Luffy's grandfather. Garp also, helped in the raising of Ace a bit, as we kind of see back and forth. and he's just kind of like on this weird like fence. He's like, I don't want to see him die, but at the same time I have to do my duty and everything, my job. So he's very.
I think it was around here is where he kind of like acknowledges that he wanted them to go be Marines.
Right.
Like he had tried to avoid this conclusion. Like he kind of foresaw it, or was worried this would happen if they went down the path of pirates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really interesting because we get a real big like kind of heart to heart between them two. Because Ace calls him grandpa as well, even though it's like not his actual grandpa, which is funny, when you think about it, because Garp was like, "Oh, my son's the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Well, I'll just have his son become a Marine," and then his son became like an infamous pirate. So it's like, Garp, come on,
you just can't argue it. Like the fact that, and you see the way Garp acts, even with the Marines themselves. It's amazing he didn't become a pirate, and he would have been a fucking beast out there.
yeah, for real. And it's kind of interesting because we kind of get those like neat little tidbits of Garp kind of had the same relationship, I guess, that sort of Luffy and Kobe kind of have, but like more matching power levels,
right?
Where like they're friends, but they can't show that they're friends because they're on opposing sides.
Yeah.
So like it's more of like a cat and mouse game, but like almost like what Lupin and the cop that's always chasing him around.
Yeah, I guess there's a sense with that because like although he really does want to bring in, like, Garp ain't trying to bring in Luffy or anything, but like and the cop and Lupin, he really does want to bring them in, but he actually does respect Lupin.
Yeah.
Too. Even though he's a criminal, he's seen through all the adventures what he's done. But I see it though. I see the comparison you're making.
Yeah. So we get to this point. You've got like all these marine giants and everything. Like it's an imposing image with the big marine headquarters in the background and everything, and like they've got Ace that they're walking up to a chopping block and everything. And shit is about to go down.
And this is being like not transponder snail, but basically something like that. But this is being filmed and sent across like the world.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah, his execution is being broadcast around.
They are live streaming Ace's execution.
Because it's basically telling the world like you all admire Gold Roger. Well, we have his son, and we got him, and now we got his son too. So,
so we get to this point where they're expecting something, and they're basically going through like we've got all these ships over here. The inside of this place is kind of like Thriller Bark in a way, where it's like a huge circle, and they have like one big main port area. Well, something starts to bubble around there, and fucking Whitebeard's entire fleet pops up out of the water.
Yeah,
they have the bubble coating that you need to get to Fishman Island, or go down into the ocean, and they all just one after the other pop up out of the ocean, like in this just amazing scene of like the freeing cavalry's here.
Right.
We're not gonna let this stand, this execution.
Right.
Then there's this.
I was going to just chime in. This is the first time you see a pirate armada. Like it's not just everyone piled onto one big ship. He's got a fleet of ships, each with their own commanders to have their own crews. Like Whitebeard. He was. He's a Yonko, one of the four emperors. But like, I don't know. At this point we had not seen anyone outside of just a pirate with their one ship crew, and just to see like his ship is a huge ship unto itself. Isn't it the Moby Dick?
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
So like that rise, and then you just see more and more popping up, and like we could spend hours just talking about his commanders because they're all legit badass. But we know we're gonna give a shout out to everyone's favorite though.
Yeah, seriously, like it's a humongous crew. Like it is just insanely big, and their whole thing is we're here to free Ace and chew bubblegum, and they're all out of bubblegum, so they're essentially just gonna fuck this entire area up.
Because like if any pirate crew, because like I said, it's the Whitebeard family, and is like could go head to head with the Marines at this point. They are the only one. Like they stepped in at picking Ace. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but they knew they knew what they were bringing in. But like it's just like at this point in the series, it was just so damn cool and impressive to see the scale of Whitebeard's crew for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because we also get this sort of backstory of like Ace trying to go out and make it on his own, and then like encountering Whitebeard's crew. I think he starts fighting Thatch instead or first, and then like Whitebeard pops up, and Whitebeard's like, "Hey, join my crew," and he's like, "No," and so he basically one shots Ace and like brings him on, and like he ends up becoming a prisoner first, and then he ends up, joining the crew and the family, and then becoming the 2nd Division commander.
Right. And Whitebeard's really interesting too, because in One Piece, often like power equates to size. Like, because some people are just normal humans, but they'll tower over Luffy or just be really big, people. And usually that's equivalent to their strength. But Whitebeard's the first time they mentioned that he might have giant blood in him.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I remember. I completely forgot all about that.
Yeah, like to me, it's always interesting because we'd never heard about any. We've met the giants of Elbaf, but this is the first time like we've had like maybe the indication that like there was some some half giants out there. But it may also have just been a legend, part of his legend, because he's huge. He's a big dude. Which we know, in a world of big guys that aren't giants, he's a big motherfucker. You know what I mean? And,
well, like And just like him being big as well, like we've heard people warning, like if he gets here, he's basically a walking calamity, right? Because of his ability.
Yeah, he's just a natural disaster in human form.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we find out why, because he has a devil fruit power called the Gura Gura no Mi, and it's a earthquake ability. And basically to open it up to set the stage. He uses it to basically create a freaking tsunami. And they're headed straight for Marineford, and they're about to wipe everything out. When all of a sudden, freaking Aokiji stands up and freezes the entire like area that they're in, and all of the waves and everything. So it kind of comes to this like head of like, okay, yeah, you're cool, but we're cooler. Kind of thing. Like they keep going back and forth, and I think at that point, like all hell breaks loose, because then Kizaru pops up and he's like, "Oh, he's just a dude," and he goes to shoot a laser beam, and I think it's just so great because this is the exact moment where I got caught up in the anime. Right before I started reading.
Oh, wow.
This laser beam was going down. I'm like, oh man, what the hell could even go against a guy that's made of light, that's laser beams and stuff. Like they're like way outmatched. And then all of a sudden, someone that we keep seeing in the background every time on his crew, on Whitebeard's crew, steps up and jumps off the ship, and he's a goddamn phoenix. And he blocks the fucking laser beam. And so like Whitebeard has a crew member named Marco, and he's Marco the Phoenix.
Yeah, a blue flamed. He is is he a Zoan type?
He is, yeah.
It is.
He's an ancient Zoan or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is like, again, showing One Piece's like, master level Pokemon battles of like Devil Fruit with their counteracting who's strong to what. Light is weak to Phoenix. It's that multi-layer Pokemon battles that we're not even ready for.
Oh, right. Yeah, we just start getting these like all out like just fights. The war has essentially begun. And we get another crew member on Whitebeard's side named Jozu, and he turns out to be a Paramecia type who could turn his skin into diamonds.
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
armored up,
Yeah. and it just turns into this like really incredible like just struggle between the pirates and the Marines, and you have like your top tier like pirates from around the world. One of the other ones that I really like, and it was actually my first portrait of pirate statue that the crew got me, was the Whitebeard swordsman Vista. Who's like this big muscly mustachioed man with two swords, and I think he's actually he ends up kind of dueling Mihawk a bit, and honestly, like, seems like they're kind of standing on equal ground almost.
Yeah, because they're both human, just masterclass swordsmen. I was also going to mention, because you mentioned Jozu, in the middle of all this, doesn't he? It wasn't him that betrays Whitebeard for a second.
No, not him. It was a guy that we like didn't see until it happened, kind of thing.
Yeah, but just like because there's enough going on. But in the middle of it, one of his men tried to turn on Whitebeard, and he forgives him. And it's like we have an emotional moment in the middle of a fucking war. Because we still get that
because he's family.
Yeah, it's so good.
Well, and I think that person, that particular pirate, actually stabbed him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he ran him right through.
Yeah,
Whitebeard takes some damage.
Sword.
Yeah, and I mean he basically just like him and is like, it's okay, I understand, blah blah blah. We also have our like a giant that pops up in this, right?
Little Oars Jr.
Little Oars Jr. Which going back to Thriller Bark, Oars, the giant monster that we had all the shadows and everything in. This is like his descendant, Little Oars Jr. And like apparently him and Ace were really, really big friends. And they got along together. And I think we actually get a little snippet of him making Oars a hat. And it's one of those samurai hats, and he learned to make that somewhere, which another one of those things that's foreshadowing, foreshadowing to another place that we'll end up to. So you have this fucking giant that's going towards the platform, but with everything going on and everyone that's fighting, they end up. The Marines end up taking Little Oars Jr. down because he's just being pummeled in by cannonballs. He's got all of these Marines and stuff that are hitting him as well, and it's just kind of like this very like heartfelt moment. I think it was actually Doflamingo.
Yeah.
Like our
this is before we knew too much about him. I mean, we only saw him a few times. He's just this flamboyantly dressed character, and who always like fiddled with something. So that it's like he would like control people, but then all of a sudden he's tying Little Oars Jr. down. He's cutting he's cutting him up and everything like that, and all with this like unseen power, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he actually ends up like cutting off one of his legs. So Oars starts to go down, and then Moria comes up with a like a shadow spear and skewers him, and ends up just destroying him. And Moria's like trying to take dibs on the body because we all know what he's gonna do there.
Yeah.
Yep. We kind of get to this point, and like this whole fight's going on, and Oars Jr. Dies, but as he died, he had himself positioned like at an upward angle towards the platform, so it kind of gave everyone else like this platform to kind of get up there, like he like made the path for them. And as all this chaos and everything is going on, we kind of hear an arguing, and we're like, what is this noise? And they look up, and coming from the fucking sky is Luffy and everyone else that was on the fucking Marine ship that escaped Impel Down, and they're falling towards the ground. And apparently they were almost there when they got hit by the tsunami that Whitebeard caused, and then got froze at the top of it. And then I'm pretty sure Ivankov did a death wink, and they just kind of went flying. So they're all like falling into the ground. Um, they get down there, and like Luffy makes a real impression on Whitebeard, right? And Whitebeard's basically like, oh, you should join my crew, and Luffy's like, oh no, I'm not going to join your crew. I'm going to be the king of the pirates. And Whitebeard just kind of like, laughs it off. But after all this fighting and everything, it's just kind of like, one thing after another. And I forgot to mention, we also get, because there's so many characters that we see during this arc, but one of them that is also fairly important was Koby, because he's I don't think he's not a vice admiral. He's like whatever is under a vice admiral or something, or maybe he's just an ensign at this point.
Yeah, it's like maybe not lieutenant. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, he's he's not he ain't the cleaning boy. Him and Helmeppo show up in this, and you see how much they progressed into the Marines.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because even their like our artistic style and how they used to look, they look a lot like more mature and grown and everything at this point. And it's kind of one of those things, along with Garp, that they're kind of like, what do we do? And I just glossed over it last time too, but they also introduced them at the end of Water 7 because they snuck up on Luffy and Zoro and started fighting them, and that's whenever we actually got their how they looked and everything.
Yeah, we did. We did forget to mention
that. But oh man, like there's so much that goes on in the series. But anyway, we kind of we see them, and they're kind of having the same like aside, like, man, I don't really want to fight Luffy, but I'm with the world, the world government and the Marines and everything. And they kind of have this thing of like, sort of like, oh, there's like evil Marines out there. So Koby's whole thing is like wanting to reshape the Marines essentially. So it's just this long, arduous struggle. We've got just all these pirate crews out there, and now we have all of the prisoners from Impel Down, and it is just absolutely going down. We find out that Akanu's power is he's a freaking lava Logia type, so he's like raining hellfire down on them.
Right, and this is all just like our words will not do justice to the way the anime and the manga made this. For Luffy to get from when he landed up to Ace is like just one of the most tense struggles of the series. Like, because everyone from even just basic enemies just blocking his path to one point he's literally face to face with all three of the admirals. Like, it's just, to me, it was just one of the most heart pounding like episodes, because it took episodes to get through all this.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like I said, our words can't do it justice. Anyone watching One Piece who hasn't made it to it yet, I hope you're not listening for one, but I can't wait to hear. Like, I've got a few friends that are kind of working their way through, and I just can't wait to hear their thoughts.
Right, and there was like another little scene with Crocodile, and apparently Crocodile was going to try to take Whitebeard out at a point, and Luffy stops him and is like, don't touch him because Ace likes him, and he just kind of like is like, don't fuck with me, and Luffy's just like, no, this is not the time or the place. Marco kind of remarks that Ace's brother is not half bad, so he's kind of like sealing the deal with this crew, like becoming friends with everyone as Luffy does. Whitebeard at some point actually recognizes Luffy's straw hat, and as something that Shanks used to wear, and he kind of like recalls the arm, him missing an arm and mentioning it, and Shanks mentioning that he kind of like entrusted it to like a future generation or something like that, or a bet on the new age.
Right.
Yeah. So, after all this struggle and everything, we end up getting to this point where, Luffy and Whitebeard are basically in this competition to see who could rescue Ace. They also introduce the fleet admiral, the big top dog of the Marines, Sengoku. He's like this very interesting character with a braided beard and a huge fro and glasses. But he commands, a lot of power and everything. And it's really interesting to think about it because him and Garp like came up together, like they're really good friends. But Garp has never accepted the position of admiral. He's always remained a vice admiral for some reason. And I think that's just because like vice admiral gives him just enough leeway to do whatever he wants without, having the responsibilities of an admiral.
Exactly, because Sengoku, I believe his title is actually fleet commander. Like he is like the top dog of the Marines, and I think he even mentioned at one point because like during all this he's arguing with Garp back and forth, and I think he kind of mentioned like if you weren't so hard headed you would have this job, like because Garp could have been running the entire Marines, but he just he's a monkey. He's a monkey D. He just wants to live free, even though he chose this path. He doesn't want all that levels, but yeah. I really like the dynamic between them too. Even at this short time, you feel how long they've been friends. You know what I mean with their interactions.
Right. We get to this point after this long, arduous just struggle between all the pirates and the Marines and everything. And Luffy makes it up to Ace, and they end up having to jump off of the platform because it just gets obliterated. And as they're falling, essentially to their deaths, which whatever. Who dies from like a fall, in One Piece?
Right.
They end up, all of a sudden Ace is unlocked and he's free, and he has his ability because of course they had Sea Stone handcuffs on him. And him and Luffy start making a run for it. And as they're going, Akainu, pops up behind them and goes to attack them. And Ace moves in Luffy's way, and so he could essentially turn into flames and just completely not get touched by this attack, but his brother's behind him. And in order to save his brother, he stays, regular, and Akainu punches him straight through.
Yeah.
And it's just like such an emotional moment because we've had all this buildup of these like last two arcs and all the struggles they went through to get to this point. And Akainu just absolutely just takes all of that away. We just basically get robbed, right?
And it's masterfully done because, like you said, Luffy struggled to get to Ace. Just breaking through an entire army. He gets to him, and they have like the anime especially plays on your emotions so much because when they're leaping off and he's getting he gets the cuffs off and the flames explode out, and like the music's like it's celebratory because this has been for the last few arcs Luffy's struggle, and he did it. And then fucking Akainu just takes it away.
Everyone's most hated Marine now at this point. Yep.
And then it finally breaks Luffy, and he just he literally sits there comatose holding his brother.
Yeah. This isn't a fake out. This is Ace's death, and you feel like Luffy. That I feel sorry for the voice actress that voices him because she had to have been hoarse because he lets out just a blood curdling scream, and before he just completely it's the first time you ever seen Luffy give up in a sense because he just he had nothing left in him.
Right. Yeah, because as far as he knows, he lost his crew, and then he goes to save his brother, and then loses him too. So he just he's done.
You feel the heartbreak, you feel the emotion in this, and it's like, man, I'm sure reading it was just as heartfelt, but I really got to give props to the anime for it because they did an excellent job conveying all that, like from the actors, the music, the camera. It's a gut-wrenching scene, and it's just so well done. And, yeah, it's not often, I think, in this series so far, that we've seen, we have tragic backstories, and we have, like, bad things happen to people all throughout Luffy's adventures, but, like, this is the first true gut punch, you know what I mean? I think that we experienced in this series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first, death that happens in current time that isn't like a flashback. Like, it's the first time we actually see someone just kind of a main character just die.
Yeah. I mean, Ace had already, he popped up every now and again, but he never was like a forefront of any major arcs until now. But I remember, like, how many people were just huge Ace fans. He had gotten he had built up a fan base just from being so damn cool, basically. Like, just showing up when he did randomly throughout the series. And so, like, to have him get taken away, it still affects the fan base. It's the unspoken rule that I think needs to be spoken a bit fucking more, because fucking One Piece fans love to spoil this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and I mean, like, just to give you some kind of, like, idea of how this happens. I said I got caught up in the anime around that Marco and Kizaru kind of meet up, and then I started reading the manga, and apparently they had already gotten to this point in the manga, and, like, I'm sitting here steadily getting caught up, and then a friend just tells me, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
right.
Seriously. So, like, out of all the One Piece stuff out there, like, they decided to spoil that for me. Like,
there's part of me that wants to believe, like, it's just because it's such an emotional moment that maybe they're just like, can you believe it? Like, they really, they just want to talk about it sometimes. Because I've seen and heard people spoil it, and I can't say to my head it ever came across as like, oh yeah, but Ace dies, by the way. Like they're just throwing it at him. So I want to give some credit to that, but y'all got to be careful. Like, I've got our buddy Nathan, who we spoke to on our previous show. He's one of my friends that's going through the series, and he's very careful about spoilers. He's he's seen some stuff. I mean, he got a Zoro time skip costume for his cosplay. Just because when he looked up his Zoro cosplay, he saw that. But like, when he'll ask me things, and he knows he can ask me, because I'm going to make sure I word it in a way that I don't give anything away. And even like when I posted the that One Piece crew rap video cipher, he didn't click it. He messaged first going, "Are there spoilers?" I'm like, "Yeah, there are." And so he ain't watching it, and I'm so hopeful, because he's not near this just yet. He's in why do I always forget the Moria one?
Thriller Bark.
He's in Thriller Bark. Last I talked to him. And I'm just so scared I'm going to hear a message of him just going, oh, is this when Ace died? I heard about that. I'm going to be so sad for him, because I really want him. He's an emotional dude. He gets really caught up in it. And this one, so I'm just saying, if y'all have seen this, because I hope you're listening to this already experiencing this, so it's not spoiling anything. Don't spoil it for anybody who's just now maybe has somehow managed to avoid it online. Because it's just it's a heart wrenching moment. I get why people want to talk about it, but you gotta let your friends have that heartache too, so they can appreciate it as it happens, like we did. Because I think, honestly, I think I did know. I was gonna say, like, I think I had heard about it. Sorry, Jay. I was finished up.
No, sorry.
Because I think I did already know about it, but it still got to me just seeing it unfold. But yeah, if I had no idea, it would have been so much more impactful. Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No, it was just kind of funny because, as we said, like, in an earlier episode, I kind of got, like, that entire house into One Piece. Right. And at one point they were all, like, watching it together. And I think it was Kat and her brother Josh, like, Ace was, like, their favorite character. And, like, she wouldn't speak to me for a week after she got to that point. She was, yeah. So just kind of picking back up on Despair.
One of my favorite parts about all this coming up, the aftermath of Ace dying, is Whitebeard's reaction, because he also snaps in a sense, but more of a rage because Akainu just killed his son, basically. And so his surrogate son,
Right.
and so he hits him with his double fruit power, because we didn't describe how this looks, because it's what he does is he basically punches the air, and the air literally cracks.
Yeah,
Causes
it's
it. So
cool.
he hits Akainu with this, and the crack is right on him, and basically just sends him. He basically just knocks him out completely.
Yeah,
right.
completely
Yeah,
right.
and I mean, like even before that, there was he was kind of taking on so much at once. Like he's getting stabbed, he's getting shot. Like half of his face, I'm pretty sure, got melted by Akainu. Like,
yep.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
It was just insane. And now he's just it's getting even worse. And so Jinbei essentially scoops Luffy up, and he's like, we got to get out of here. And we get to a point where we actually see another crew that's not part of Whitebeard's his whole fleet, and it's Law. Trafalgar Law actually popped up. I guess maybe they wanted to see how things were going to pan out or something like that.
Yeah,
So they showed up in their submarine, and he actually, with everything that's going on with Luffy, with him being poisoned and beat up and everything through these last 2 arcs, you find out that Law is a doctor.
Right.
He's actually called the Surgeon of Death. But he pulls up, and he's essentially saying, bring him here, and they're gonna help them get away and everything. And I think one of the last little tidbits that we get with Luffy is what is it? Jinbei basically gets with Buggy and is telling Buggy to find the hat or whatever, and he ends up bringing the hat back to them, to Luffy and Jinbei before they get away. So you kind of have this mass retreat that's going on with all the pirates there, with the loss of Ace and Luffy being whisked away.
Yeah, and it's actually Buggy floats Luffy to the submarine, which shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even though he hates Luffy, but it's even he knows I gotta get him. He felt even with and he hates Ace too, because Ace showed up on Buggy's ship randomly one time and drank all his liquor, while they all passed out.
Yeah.
So Buggy hates everyone who's not Treasure, basically. But even he helped Luffy get away. And a great scene, which I'm gonna get into a little Buggy fan boy moment here, if y'all will allow me. While he's escaping with Luffy, Mihawk tries to stop him by slicing Buggy into literally slivers of himself, and Buggy still lives. Motherfucker's immortal.
It was just great because Luffy was kind of using him as a shield. During that part.
And if you think about it, if Buggy was a smarter fighter, he'd be a much bigger threat. But admittedly, he's not. Because if he can split that small and be fine, he could go into your bloodstream. He could send a part of him into someone's body and kill them. But Buggy just wants treasure. He ain't too worried about it. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? He has that potential. But but I loved it how he just got sliced all to shit by Mihawk, and he's still so for a second you hear him screaming, and he's like, "Oh, pop right back," and he's going. And during their escape, though, too, one of my favorite okay, what can this mean? What a potential matchup is? Because somebody else shows up when they're escaping, and that's Shanks.
Oh yeah, but we're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
No,
sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Hold your
Man, I'm so excited about this.
Someone else showed up before that.
All right.
So, essentially, why they're all escaping, Whitebeard actually stays behind, and he's pretty much giving them their he's protecting his children, right? Because that's how he thinks of everyone in his crew, his fleet, and everything. And he's creating these this humongous blast and stopping them, and it's just this, he's taking this ridiculous amount of damage from all of these blasts and all of his damage that he's taken in the past, and it's just one of the biggest moments. We just got the death of Ace, and it was just such a huge point. But I just kind of want to point this out. Whitebeard ends up dying standing straight up, taking, succumbing to all the damage. And they had this really great part in the manga about it. And it's kind of, I think, sort of like a afterwards of this arc, but I'm just going to read it real quick. Even in death, even with half of his head blown clean away, his body refuses to yield. His mighty figure, cutting swaths through his foes, was truly monstrous. Over the course of his battles, he received a full 267 blade wounds. The bullets he endured total 152, and the cannonballs he has withstood amount to 4 10s and 6. And yet, upon the proud back of this legendary man, or indeed upon his very life as a pirate, he bears not a single wound of cowardice, and it essentially shows his back, and he has absolutely no scars on his back, which means, he never ran from a fight, never fled from anything. And like, it was just, such a powerful moment, at the end of this whole arduous battle.
Yeah. And as he's dying, he talks about that Roger's treasure, One Piece, and that it actually does exist, because he was when they introduced him, they say that he was the closest guy to the One Piece after Roger died. So he kind of resparks that fervor that a new generation of pirates will go for, saying like, oh no, it's definitely out there. Like, it's not just a rumor.
Yeah, and that's like, we got to kind of recant because this is being broadcast. Right. Yeah. So it's like something that everybody like sees. They see this entire struggle, and I think like at one point the Marines are trying to not like stop the broadcast or whatever, because it's getting so out of hand, and they don't want to see any kind of like thing with the pirates succeeding and everything. And I think that's another point where Buggy gets like really big, because they're kind of like somebody takes over the thing and they're kind of following Buggy around, and that's whenever he becomes even more popular.
Yeah. Buggy again building up his reputation on accident.
Yeah.
Which is something I loved. It just made me love him even more.
and with all of that going on, and all this like just absolute insanity, Blackbeard shows up, and I think they actually like essentially sort of like finish Whitebeard off, like he's already so messed up. Just created this huge earthquake and everything, and then Blackbeard's crew just basically unload on him, and that's whenever he dies standing up. So then we kind of get this interesting mystery scene that they haven't explained in the series yet, where Doc Q, mentions to Blackbeard, so and so this should work. They cover Blackbeard's body up, or Whitebeard's body up. Blackbeard goes underneath, and whenever he comes out, he pulses his fist, and it's that same ability that Blackbeard had, or Whitebeard had.
Yeah.
So now he basically now has 2 Devil Fruit powers, which they had mentioned offhandedly in Ennis Lobby when Kaku and Khalifa are eating the fruits that the other guys don't want it, because there's this rumor that if you have 2 devil fruits, that the devils inside would fight it out and kill you, basically.
Right. So this is like unheard of, right? Where someone has 2 devil fruits. So essentially he turns around and he's about to just absolutely lay waste to anybody around. They're about to fight the Marines. And right before he does, as Sean mentioned earlier, we get another appearance. As this series and this arc in general is keen to do, just like blasting us with like legend after legend after legend.
Right.
It's Shanks and his crew, and he is one of the 4 emperors, and he's proclaims that he's here to put a stop to this war. And after everything that happened with Whitebeard and just the mass devastation and this whole war, I'm pretty sure it came to this whole thing of like, we don't want to fight another emperor today. No, thank you.
Right.
And so the conflict. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and now that we're back to what I was jumping ahead of, unfortunately, sorry.
Yeah.
But like,
no, you're fine.
What I do love too is you see obviously the physical difference. Shanks looks a lot bigger than the last time we had seen him, showing his growth. But you also see a little hints of the crew, who we've seen
Yeah.
brutal when they took out the mountain bandits early on, that they're not afraid to kill. But like, there's a moment that I love, and the speculation abound from it was when they show up, they're still trying to get Luffy into the sub and get away, and Kizaru sees it happening, and he's all like, "Oh, I'm gonna put a stop to this," and he's about to blast the ship with his light, and Ben Beckman, to our knowledge, is just a dude with a gun, kind of like gets in his path. And he's like, "Oh, Ben Beckman," and he's like, "Nope, I don't want to fuck with this dude." So a man can turn into light.
That's one of the things that I love about Shanks' crew is that it's rumored that it's a crew full of non-Devil Fruit users, and that they're just beastly men that just can wreak havoc.
The Admiral did not want to fuck with. The Admiral who could turn to light didn't want to fuck with Ben Beckman, who's, as far as we know, is just a helmsman or a second in command, I think, of the Red Hair Pirates. It's like, how badass are these motherfuckers? I need to know.
And that's something that I actually like. Retelling this reminds me that it was Shanks who got Buggy to give the hat back to Luffy. Because he actually found it and was like talking to Buggy all casually, and Buggy was like, "Don't talk to me, like we're friends or anything."
Yeah, that's
and he basically
also, Sorry. I'm getting excited.
No, you're fine. He essentially just tells Buggy that he'll tell him about a treasure if he takes this hat to Luffy, which is he knows that he's playing to like Buggy's like thing. But something else that was never mentioned, but it's awesome that I'm remembering this now. But he also has another crew member on his crew that's connected to one of the Straw Hats, and that's Yasopp, which is Usopp's dad. Yeah.
So we have him.
So we actually, I think we found out around then because Luffy was like, "Why does this guy remind me of somebody?" And then he basically tells Usopp that he met his dad, when Shanks and his crew were on his island.
Right. But real quick, too, another thing, actually, I just remembered specifically, because, Buggy being involved, he got some attention. But I remember specifically a lot of the pirate prisoners and stuff, because they're the ones, they're the hype man for Buggy. He's just kind of along for the ride. But when he sees Shanks, who he has a long history with when they were both on Gold Roger's ship, he caused Buggy to swallow the fruit accidentally. He hates Shanks more than anything.
Oh yeah.
And so he sees Shanks, and he doesn't care that he's one of the not warlord, the Yonko, the Emperor. He's all like, "You stupid redhead bastard!" They're like, "Look at Captain Buggy's yelling at him. He's not scared of Shanks. He's the best." I fucking love it. I'm with those prisoners, dude. I'm cheering Buggy too. That's one of my favorite, after such a tragedy of both. And two different deaths of different levels. Ace being the tragedy for Luffy and for the loss of him and everything, and then seeing the honorable death of Whitebeard and what his inspiration. We got two of that, and then we can still laugh at Buggy and them, like screaming at someone who could probably destroy him easily.
And it was kind of wild, like seeing this whole thing with Whitebeard, right? Because all the times that we've seen him before, he did have this big imposing presence, but this whole time he was kind of like hooked up to like an oxygen machine. So we were kind of like, what's going on there? And he, it seemed like he was kind of getting old and sick and stuff. So it was like pretty nuts to just see him just unleashing like his full potential against these people and showing that he's like still this big superpower in the world.
Yeah. Like Whitebeard in his prime. This may have gone a different way, I think.
Exactly.
He was a beast in his youth, and at this point he's very old, lived a long life, happy life with his family, but he was, like you said, oxygen tank, and an entire armada had to take him down. And if y'all have only watched the anime, check out the manga of this, because the anime had to censor how much damage he really took. Yeah. If you really want to get an idea of how much he put up to get back to his son, it's just even more impactful.
Yeah. So real quick, I made a note to bring this up when we got to this point. Have you guys heard of the whole thing with Blackbeard having two Devil Fruit powers? Have you? I read this theory back when this is coming out. Have you heard of the Cerebus theory?
Yes.
That's
okay,
the
good.
One, because that's one I buy into more than any of them.
Yeah, because they made a point of saying that Whitebeard's fruit, he was a paramecium fruit. He wouldn't, and that it was the strongest paramecium fruit, and that they've implied at times that Blackbeard's Yami fruit, the darkness fruit, is the strongest Logia type. So there's that rumor that he's able to somehow have 3 powers, and then he'll get the strongest Zoan fruit at some point.
Well, they've mentioned he has. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish up.
It's just cool that like that could happen, and that, like, you know, his Jolly Roger flag is 3 skulls. They kind of represent that. There's like the whole thing later on that he doesn't sleep at all or something like that, and like there's like 3 different things, like 3 different people living in like one body almost, or something like that. It's like it's weird stuff.
Right. Yeah. He has a thing with 3s, like you said, the 3 skull flag. He has 3 pistols on his belt, missing 3 teeth, and they even mentioned he has a unique body. Which may mean, I think going with the Cerberus fruit idea, he may already have it, and that's why he can contain multiple devil fruit.
But that too.
Yeah, like what if like his first fruit was actually the Cerberus fruit,
right?
And he had to get that before he could start collecting more, so it made it to where he could get 2 more fruits or something, maybe to that extent.
But we even now, all 3 of us are caught up in the manga. We still don't know. This is pure speculation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's only briefly been shown, you know, in recent time.
So you know, we get to this point where the war is basically over. Shank's crew came and shut that shit down.
Right.
Luffy is with the Heart Pirates with Law and his crew in their submarine. They essentially meet up with Boa Hancock, and they get to this point where they, you know, he's operating on Luffy, but, you know, he can heal the body, but he can't heal the mind and everything that's going on with him in his head. And they get to this like really, really good scene, and where Jinbei basically gets to him and he's like, you know, what do you still have? Like, he's like taking hits from Luffy and hitting Luffy and everything. And we get to this scene where he's like, you know, what do you have left? You know, what do you have left to live for and stuff? Because he's basically just, you know, lost it all. But then he starts thinking of his crew, and he kind of comes to this realization that he like still has to live for his crew. And I know we've been on this for like a while.
Yeah,
so
we are. We're going to have to wrap it up here in a second. We're past the 2-hour mark.
So essentially, what I'm just gonna like kind of run through. Rayleigh shows up and basically takes Luffy out to this island, and he's like, hey, you know, we're gonna train, so, you know, you can protect your crew. Luffy gets this idea, and essentially when they were on Sabaody, he was like, you know, we'll all go our separate ways and meet back up in 3 days. And then all of a sudden they all just got poofed, spirited away and everything. So Luffy and the Fishman Pirate, or not the Fishman Pirates, the Amazons, and was it Rayleigh and Jinbei, all end up going back to it's not Mary Jo's, to Marineford, you know, because like who would be crazy to go back here? And he basically makes a huge scene and gets put in the paper because he's like putting flowers down from where Whitebeard and Ace died. And so these pictures get taken of him, and all of his crew are basically like trying to scramble to get back to him. And then they see this paper, and on his arm, he has 3D 2Y with the 3D marked out. And so they come to the conclusion, like, we'll meet up again, not in 3 days, but in 2 years. And they all kind of like make this agreement to, you know, train up and meet again in 3 years. And that's whenever we get a fucking month-long hiatus or 2-month-long hiatus from fucking One Piece.
Yeah, I forgot there was a long break, wasn't there?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, but again, like, kind of giving final thoughts on this huge, you know, arc that we just had. Like, again, Oda shows, like, no matter how strong Luffy's gotten up to this point, all he's gone through, without, you know, again, defeat and showing the growth, you know, like, we're still seeing that even at this point, there's still huge hurdles for Luffy to get over. And he realizes, You know, I'm not going to rest up here in a month or so and be ready to come back. Like, we are not strong enough. Nobody in my crew can handle the Marines right now. So we need to take 2 years to get stronger. So, like, that's just so well. Because, you know, time skips in Shonen Jump aren't anything new. But, like, again, I still think Oda just writes it. It just makes a lot of more sense in his stories.
Yeah. Yeah, because up to this point, Naruto had already done a time skip when this was coming out in the manga, so that it was like it was kind of like following suit that the big three were all going to do like a little time skip jump.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like it's just been fantastic how it worked out, and you know how Kuma basically sent them all to like these islands that they would go to, that they could like find more information and train up and everything like that. And it was just it was just really well done. And we had this whole like three arc story of like just Luffy and his struggles and everything that was going on with him. Just kind of giving us like time sort of away from the crew, and it like glanced back to them occasionally and showed like what was going on with them. But it was just super well done.
Oh yeah, excellent done. But that is where we're going to have to call it for today.
Yes.
Thank both of y'all for going through this emotion with me. I'm not crying, you're crying. But if y'all liked what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how you felt when Ace died. Let us know if someone ruined it for you. We'll feel your pain and cuss at them in our hearts. Share the video around to your friends that have. I know this is a hard one because it's so full of spoilers, but we appreciate anyone who sat down for another 2+ hours of listening to us go on. But that is going to do it for today. So we're going to catch y'all later.
Yeah, peace.
Later.